Hi everyone, it's QuickyBaby and welcome back to World of Tanks and Wargaming are releasing another Tier 8 German tank destroyer. It's a re-envisioning of the Kanonenjagdpanzer. Now all of you will know about the original Kanonenjagdpanzer, a vehicle that a lot of people really despise, and that's because it's got relatively low penetration and very low alpha damage for a high tier tank destroyer, and all the mobility in the world can't really make up for it. And so that's why Wargaming are now bringing out the Kanonenjagdpanzer 105 with a fancy Black Panther paint job. And in today's video I'm going to let you know whether I think this is a true upgrade over the regular Kanonenjagdpanzer, and also how you can get a hold of one of these vehicles if you have the original completely for free. So before we discuss the matter of how you can get your hands on the Kanonenjagdpanzer 105, let's see if it's actually better than the original. Well, immediately it has really bad damage per minute for a tier 8 tank destroyer, sub 2000. Something like a Scorpion G is packing 20% more than that. And in fact, the regular Kanonenjagdpanzer has 15% more damage per minute than the new version. However, one thing that has been upgraded, as the name would suggest, is the caliber of the main armament. The original Kanonenjagdpanzer was widely critiqued for its 90mm. Now this 105mm has full 390 alpha damage. While that's not as good as the Scorpion G, for example, that's still a definite step in the right direction. Now also, it carries a 268mm main armament with an impressive shell velocity, 1,478 on its standard rounds. If you choose to fire premium rounds on this vehicle, however, you have an impressive 330mm of heat pen with a fairly good shell velocity of 1,173, with the fact that it's high explosive anti-tank. And so this actually allows you to have superior penetration to the Scorpion G with better shell velocity and the advantages of heat losing no penetration over range. Now while this is great, you can't forget about the fact that you're doing 390 alpha damage compared to 490 on the Scorpion G, and that your rate of fire is only just a tiny little bit better. While the Kanonenjagdpanzer with 105mm is undoubtedly going to be consistent, it's not really going to get the job done very quickly. So now onto the gun handling, pretty much exactly the same as the standard Kanonenjagdpanzer, albeit with a tiny little bit better gun traverse. And this is better than the Scorpion G pretty much within every regard apart from a little bit worse accuracy. But of course there's one huge advantage that the Scorpion has, and that is that it has a fully traversable turret, whereas the Kanonenjagdpanzer, while it has a respectable gun traverse 15 degrees to the left and 15 degrees to the right, it's not going to be able to engage targets while driving in an opposite direction. The mobility of this vehicle is practically identical to the original Kanonenjagdpanzer, albeit with it weighing 300 kilograms heavier, which affects the power to weight ratio a little bit. And this thing is massively faster than the Scorpion G. You are going to be able to control the engagement very easily indeed, outrun even light tanks on the enemy team, apart from the fastest light vehicles in the game. And so this is definitely one of the advantages of the tank, the fact that you are going to have to control the engagement, because let's be honest, while your alpha damage is good, your DPM isn't going to deal with the threat quickly. Durability wise, this tank is horrible, awful armor, and even less hit points than the standard Kanonenjagdpanzer, which means that you truly are going to have to rely on the camo rating of this vehicle if you want to survive the engagement. And the camo rating of this vehicle is exceptional, over 50% when you have it fully tricked out when it's stationary, and even when it's firing it still has over 10.5% concealment rating without a camo net. In addition to this, my Kanonenjagdpanzer has 31% camo rating when it's driving, which can allow you to sneak into position like the best of medium tanks and even some of the larger light tanks. Now when we compare this to, for example, the Scorpion, this thing is packing over twice the concealment rating. And the profile of the vehicle is much smaller as well, which makes it a more challenging target to hit, should we say, with a high explosive round frontally. But you know what, let's quit the small talk and give it a trial by combat on the battlefield. Alright, so here we go, Kanonenjagdpanzer with the 105mm in arguably the worst possible matchup. Tier 10 tanks and also 2 self-propelled guns to have to deal with. But you know what, this tank actually does very well in a bad matchup compared to the original Kanonenjagdpanzer. The original Kanonenjagdpanzer for me is kind of a predator of those nice matchups, because that 90mm caliber gun with 250mm of premium pen and very poor pen on its standard rounds, it can be quite awkward once you get into those tier 9 and tier 10 games. However, when you're packing 268mm of pen and 330 heat pen, it doesn't really matter what tanks you're going to be shooting at. And again, when you don't have any armor on the vehicle, who cares if you're getting shot by a tier 10 or if you're getting shot by a tier 6? All that really matters is their damage per minute and their alpha damage, because the rounds are going to be going into you anyway. Alright, so I wanted to take my Kanonenjagdpanzer with 105mm to the front to try and set up my binoculars and try and see if we can get some spots going here. Now there's a T-92 alongside me, but I know that there's going to be an ELC even 90 that's going to be chilling in those bushes. Now I fire, but the ELC doesn't actually manage to spot me, which kind of makes me feel a little bit more confident. So I'm going to push further into the bush, activate my binoculars, and see if we can get a little bit more action going. But with this vehicle, it's all about patience. And while I wouldn't say that this is the most patient position that you could have on the map, and in fact I'm going to decide that it's a little too hot here. What happens if the Skoda decides to plow down the middle? What happens if the ELC even 90 manages to spot me, or the artillery just decides to blind fire those bushes? It's not going to work out. And there you go, RU-251 was sitting at the back waiting for me. And this is where we kind of just hope that an artillery shell doesn't land on this absolute juicy slam dunk of a target. It would literally just one-shot me if that T-92 hit me. 30mm of armor that this vehicle has, not enough to deal with even the reduced penetration on the self-propelled guns in these kind of days patches. Alright, so I'm going to use the mobility of the vehicle, and look at this, driving along at 70 kilometers an hour. It does give you a lot of flexibility to relocate, and so if you do know the different positions and you're not the kind of person who just wants to sit in one location and be forced for people to drive out in front of you, like if you're in a Ferdinand, for example, then this tank does hold a lot of opportunity. You will be able to relocate, you will be able to try and make it to new bushes, and hopefully you can set up a line of fire to be able to punish tanks that do decide to drive out. Talking about tanks getting punished, what was that Stridsvagn S1 doing there? I guess I should have really compared the Kanonenjagdpanzer to the Stridsvagn S1 as well, but they're kind of a bit different vehicles. I say the Stridsvagn is obviously going to be way, way, way better in a good matchup because there are tanks that will not be able to penetrate it, but this thing has a lot more mobility, at least when we're going forwards. But the reverse speed on this tank, still 20 kilometers an hour, and while it's not going to be nearly as good as the 45 that you can get on that vehicle, not too bad. Alright, so the AMX-50B slams one APCR shell into my vehicle, and I decide to use some evasive maneuvers to try and get out of harm's way. Now I feel that this flank is going to be lost, and we can see that the enemies are kind of boxing us in here. They've locked down two different positions on the map. We've got a stalemate over towards the northeast, and their heavy tanks are trundling in along the west. And I'm just trying to figure out where I want to situate my tank. I still think that I've got more opportunities to be able to get some shells in here. Now this vehicle does have 8 degrees of gun depression, which is rather nice, you know. You can work a ridge line. 8 degrees is a little bit better than the Scorpion's 7 degrees, but obviously not having that turret does make you just a little bit less flexible. Anyway, this is where you want to be in your Kanonenjagdpanzer, working that red line, just trying to get in some snipes at long range, and what better vehicle for having the penetration to do so. Now we don't know whether we quite got that OHO, we'll have to take a look at the end of the game, and I get spotted for firing there, and the ELC even 90 shoots me in the side. What a little pesk that tiny little French light tank has been, denying me my starting area, now denying me my position on the ridge line. He's doing a great job. And I'm going to try and hunt him down. I'm going to try and blind fire some shells here into the bush for the ELC even 90, but I realise that I've probably got more pressing things to attend to with the fact that there are German heavy tanks advancing down the western flank. So once again, look, this has been a real slow start for the Kanonenjagdpanzer with 105mm, but you really need those original battle lines to break to have the strength of this vehicle. You want it to become an engagement where people are forced to drive over open areas where you can hopefully harass them. Now I'm hoping that Skoda T50 comes out here, and take a look at the camera rating that this vehicle has. I'm able to get a little bit of spotting on the VK, he's unable to find me, and I'm going to reload a heat round here because 268mm of pen would probably not be enough for the lower plate reliably on the VK, but 330 heat can pretty much just go through the front of his tank, even if I was to hit his upper plate if it wasn't very well angled. And we don't get spotted by him, because remember, I'm packing 10% camera rating when I'm firing with this vehicle, and so even if he's got 450 meters view range, he's not going to be spotting me, you know, at like 400, 410 meters. So we stay hidden, and with him being stunned now by the artillery, that gives us an even better opportunity to advance. And with 30% concealment rating, when moving, you can make these more bold, aggressive plays. Alright, so there's a T-54 lightweight who's boldly chilling at the back of the map. I'm going to go and join him in some of the bushes here, and I'm just looking for that 50-50 kill shot on the VK here, but the VK does fall back, so it doesn't look like we're quite going to be able to find that kill shot yet. Whoa, that's a big gun coming up to the left of me, so I decide that I want to try and press my advantage. But with only 458 hit points, even though I've only lost just over half of them, I'm still a one-shot for this VK, and he's only a 50-50 to kill me. But I'm going to take a look as I come around this corner to find a shot right into the side of him. And of course I low roll and I break. And I'm like, oh dear, this didn't really work out as well as I wanted it to. But the T-54 lightweight dealt with him as well. And did I just give that guy the lightest of bumps? I literally grazed him. And I did 1 damage to myself. There should be probably an achievement for that. It evolved in a collision and ended up doing 1 hit point damage. Alright, so now that flank is dealt with, I'm going to go and work my way up into the hills. And this game is far from safe. The enemy are still packing 2 of their starting tier 10 tanks, while we have 1 tier 10 tank and 1 tier 10 self-propelled gun. Although that self-propelled gun is going to be useful, hopefully we're dealing with the 50B and also with the Jagdtiger as they're going to be advancing across here. So I'm going to come around the corner here. I'm going to try and find a shot right into the 50B and easy money right into the turret. But he manages to slam a shot into me as well. That's not good. And that also makes me very nervous that the GW Tiger is going to be able to splash around over the hill against us. So I'm just waiting until I'm no longer spotted, then I'm going to fall back if I possibly can, because my artillery senses were tingling. Nevertheless, 1 round into the 50B and a little bit of spotting against him. While it's certainly not the best of trades, it's not an absolute disaster for a tier 8 tank destroyer to be whittling down the enemy's tier 10 heavy tank. And thankfully, the Stridsvagn 103B advanced towards the enemy's cap, found the artillery, shut down the artillery, but was then vanquished by the T110E4. Alright, so the Object 261 now finishes off the 50B, and there's going to be a Jagdtiger advancing towards us. Now, if I was using the regular Kanonenjagdpanzer, I would be forced to fire premium rounds here. No doubt, I'd be doing 240 damage and spending about 4,000 credits a shot. Whereas with the regular Kanonenjagdpanzer, we have the penetration to not have to fire heat. We can use our standard rounds to go through the front of a tier 9 tank destroyer. Though that's really the key difference here, ladies and gents. And while our DPM wasn't the best, we still managed to put 2 shots in. We outspotted the Jagdtiger to enable our team to finish him off. And again, another opportunity. If I was in the regular Kanonenjagdpanzer, I'd probably have to fire a heat shell or even a high explosive round there at the Oho. But with the APCR rounds on this tank, we managed to finish him off with standard rounds. Again, saving some credits. Alright, so now, looking like this T110E4 is slightly outnumbered here. The T54 lightweight, 746 hit points. That means he's a 50-50 to die to the 155mm caliber gun of the turreted American tank destroyer. But nevertheless, I'm going to just try and advance here. I'm not even going to stop in the bush. That's how bold I feel. And yeah, just take a look at the women. This isn't the actual Black Panther camo. This is the potato camo that Wargaming gave us. But I didn't have the Black Panther camo while I was testing this tank at Gamescom. The model, I'd say, is quite fetching. It's obviously embellishing on the regular Kanonenjagdpanzer. So if you care just about looking good, then I guess this will be the vehicle for you. And I don't know, what do I think about that Black Panther paint job? I think it looks pretty okay. I don't think it's something that I would really want to spend extra money on unless I'm some kind of a collector. I guess it does make the tank feel a little bit more novel, but we'll discuss all of that later on. Alright, so 2 artilleries situated towards the south. T110E4, nowhere in sight. The T54 lightweight spots the E4's last known location and now decides to make his move towards the west. Now, of course, I can't really leave this lightweight alone with the E4. Even though this situation, it's 1 versus 4, it's still very dangerous for us. The E4 50-50 to kill the lightweight, and if the lightweight goes down, then it's going to be quite ugly for me to try and deal with an E4 frontally, because if he's got any number of hit points left, he's going to be a massive threat. Now, the enemies don't actually manage, my team don't actually manage to find the enemy T110E4 there, so that means that surely he must be either extremely towards the east or towards the west here. This is guy Houdini right now. He's managing to avoid the prying eyes of 4 players. And there we go. The T54 lightweight finds him finally. And on 1,198 hit points, this isn't going to be as simple as we thought it was to try and deal with this tank. Right, sounds like the E4 fires the gargantuan gun, situating himself over towards the artillery. Who's he going to shoot here? Is he going to shoot me or is he going to shoot the artillery? Should we take a look? It looks like he's transfixed on the artillery. I miss his lower plate with .32, and I'm thinking, shall I fall back? Who's he going to go for here? Is he going to go for the lightweight, or is he going to go for me? It looks like he might be turning his attention to me. So I'm going to put a round into him, and I'm going to fall back over the ridgeline because I don't want to feed him my Kanonen. And it doesn't look like this guy wants to actually aim at the artillery. Now he does. He's going to aim back at the lightweight, and so we come around the corner and we put our final blow into the tank. And it looks like it was a heat round. I guess I was getting a little bit frustrated about missing the lower plate there and the opportunity to do any kind of damage against a tank 2 tiers higher than me at the end of this game. Nevertheless, look, This wasn't a crazy, action-packed game for the Kanonenjagdpanzer, but I felt like it really showcased the strengths of the tank. You've got the mobility, you got the camo rating. At least you got the camo rating over the Scorpion. But when it comes to, is this tank better than the regular Kanonenjagdpanzer? At least with regards to the alpha damage and the penetration, there's no contest. Now, you are going to lose some DPM, you are going to lose those awesome high explosive rounds that the regular Kanonen has. But I'd say, all in all, for the vast majority of players, it's totally going to be worth it. The regular Kanonen has this kind of speciality where it has actually better camo rating when firing because of the smaller caliber gun, and that higher DPM can make it voracious in a good matchup. But this one's just so much cheaper to use because you don't need to fire nearly as many premium rounds, and even when you do, you have 330 millimeters of penetration instead of 250 on the regular Kanonenjagdpanzer, which just doesn't cut it at all. Even against the front of an IS-3 sometimes, if you hit that kind of spacing on the front of the vehicle, you're far better to fire the standard rounds, which have got like 230 pen. Which means that this vehicle is by far the more comfortable tank to use, and I think it's going to be the better tank in the hands of 90% of players. So while this was an ace tanker for the vehicle, I'm pretty sure it's because I was one of the only people playing it at the time. This isn't the most impressive amount of base experience, but in the worst possible matchup, to finish second on damage and top on experience is not too bad. We make a decent amount of profit with or without a premium account because of the lack of premium rounds that we fired here, and also that we were running a credit booster. So do take that into account, but even without that, we still made a 70,000 credits profit in the worst possible matchup. I can tell you, I wouldn't have done that with the regular Kanonen. So next up, you might be asking, how can you get your hands on this tank? Well, if you don't have the original Kanonenjagdpanzer, you have a few different options. Firstly, if you want to buy the vehicle by itself, you can get it with a 5x5 experience for your first victories, a garage slot, and 100% crew, but you don't get the Black Panther camo, and you have to pay £33 for it. I feel that's a bit cheeky, Wargaming. I don't know why you would have that Black Panther camo not on the standard variety. In fact, you have to buy the ultimate version, which costs £51 if you want to have the exclusive Kanonenjagdpanzer 105 style, aka the Black Panther. However, for those of you out there who already have the original Kanonenjagdpanzer, firstly, you can keep your old Kanonenjagdpanzer and purchase the new one at a 50% discount, which also includes the Black Panther style. Alternatively, if you absolutely hate your old Kanonenjagdpanzer and you don't want to purchase an additional one at the 50% discount, you can actually trade your old one in for the new one, and it looks like Wargaming will also give you the Black Panther style. And if you want to do that, you simply have to go onto the Wargaming EU website, and I presume it will be for the other regions as well, where you can go and open up a ticket. But don't dilly-dally, because you have up until the 23rd of October to be able to do this. Also, there's an interesting little bit of information that I only just found out, and that is that if you have the original Kanonenjagdpanzer in your garage, then from this day onwards you will earn 50% more experience for each and every battle you play in the original Kanonenjagdpanzer until the end of next year. And so this means that for over a year, the original Kanonenjagdpanzer is going to be an exceptional crew trainer, as well as also experience grinder. But of course, there is a reason why they decided to upgrade it in the first place, right? And you're going to have to deal with that 90mm gun. And so all in all, I like the way that Wargaming have done this. They're allowing all of the old drivers to be able to get the new one with the fancy camo for free. They're also giving you a meaty discount if you have the original and you want to get your hands on the new one. And the only thing that I really don't like is it just feels completely unnecessary and a little bit cheap that they're not allowing you to get the Black Panther paint job unless you pay £51 instead of $33. I feel that was a little bit unnecessary, Wargaming. That's still a large price for a tank destroyer that I'm not so sure whether it's actually better than a Scorpion. I would probably rather have a Scorpion than this tank. And so if you're sitting here thinking, I don't have the original Kanonenjagdpanzer, shall I get the new one? I'm a Scorpion driver. Probably not. I'd stick with it. So ladies and gents, that's it for today. Hope this video was useful for you, or maybe you just enjoyed it. If it was, consider giving it a thumbs up, but if you hated it, make sure you give it a thumbs down. And let me know in the comments what you think about the Kanonenjagdpanzer with the 105mm. How do you think that Wargaming has handled this whole upgrade shenanigans, and how do you think that this vehicle stacks up to the regular Scorpion? And as always, thank you so much for watching. You've been epic, and hopefully I'll see you soon.